They say some houses aren't just old, they're hungry. They say some places remember, and I found out, in the most terrifying way imaginable, just how true that is. For years, I've been fascinated by the unknown, by the whispers of the supernatural that cling to forgotten corners of the world. But I always maintained a healthy skepticism until that house. Locals called it the Widow's Hold, but a grand, decaying Victorian sitting on the outskirts of town, swallowed by overgrown vines and shrouded in a century of grim legends. Tales of a grieving widow, a missing child, and the malevolent presence that had claimed every subsequent resident. I arrived, armed with cameras, EMF detectors, and a foolish bravado, convinced I'd debunk a local myth. The moment I stepped onto the cracked pavement of its drive, a profound chill, far colder than the autumn air, enveloped me. The front door, surprisingly unlocked, groaned open like a protesting coffin lid. Inside, the air was stagnant, thick with dust and an undeniable scent of decay, almost like old dried blood. Every floorboard creaked under my weight, each groan echoing unnervingly in the vast, empty rooms. I started setting up my equipment in the main living area, trying to ignore the prickling sensation on the back of my neck. As dusk bled into night, the house began to awaken. I heard faint whispers, indistinct, like conversations just beyond the reach of comprehension, drifting from the upper floors. I dismissed it as old pipes, the wind, my own overactive imagination. But then, a distinct thud came from the attic directly above me. I froze. My EMF detector, previously silent, began to flicker erratically, peaking violently. I called out, my voice thin and reedy in the overwhelming silence. Nothing. Only the sound of my own hammering heart. I decided to explore the upstairs. The staircase felt endless, each step a challenge. Up there, the air was noticeably colder, biting at my exposed skin. I swept my flashlight across peeling wallpaper and dust-shrouded furniture, each shadow seeming to writhe just at the edge of my vision. In what must have been a child's nursery, I found a rocking horse, gently swaying. There was no breeze, no open window, it just rocked. My blood ran cold. I watched it for what felt like an eternity, the rhythmic creak of wood on wood, a hypnotic, terrifying lullaby. Then the nursery door, which I had left ajar, slowly, deliberately, swung shut, plunging me into near darkness. I fumbled for my phone, its flashlight beam cutting through the oppressive gloom. My breath hitched. Standing in the hallway, at the far end, silhouetted against a moonlit window, was a figure. Tall, gaunt, draped in what looked like an old, tattered dress. It was perfectly still, just watching me. My mind screamed at me to run, but my feet were rooted to the spot. The air grew impossibly heavy, crushing. Then, slowly, the figure began to move. Not walking, but gliding, closer. No sound of footsteps, just a horrifying, rustling whisper that seemed to emanate from the very walls. As it drew nearer, I could make out details. The empty, shadowed eyes, the way its head tilted unnaturally, and then it spoke. A dry, rasping voice, like leaves skittering across pavement, right into my ear. It said one word: mine. I didn't scream, I couldn't. Pure, unadulterated terror seized me. I stumbled backward, falling down the stairs in a desperate scramble. The fall was a blur of pain and instinct. I landed hard at the bottom, gasping for air, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Without a second thought, I scrambled to my feet, ignoring the throbbing pain in my ankle, and bolted for the front door. I didn't look back. I didn't dare. The moon was high now, casting long, accusing shadows across the lawn as I ran faster than I ever thought possible. Away from the widow's hold, I drove until the sun began to peek over the horizon, painting the sky with colors that seemed mocking after the darkness I had just endured. But the image of those empty eyes, that gliding form, and that single chilling word were burned into my mind forever. I never returned to that house. I never will. And my skepticism, it's gone, replaced by a cold, hard truth. There are forces beyond our comprehension, entities that linger, possessive and malevolent. What I experienced that night was a real horror story, an encounter with something truly evil that desired nothing more than to claim me as its own. It makes me wonder, if I had stayed, would I have become just another legend? What would you do if faced with a presence that refused to let go? Tell me in the comments below. Stay safe and remember, some doors are better left unopened.